Welcome to Elementary. So today, before we start the show, I want to give a shout out. Shout out to a few people a few countries that actually, one country in particular that I have the highest viewership from, and it's Vietnam. And I wanted to give them a shout out because I recently visited. And so what a fabulous way to start. Anyhow, I want to get started with today's show. And welcome back to me. It's been a little while since I did a show. I had a fabulous trip and totally trying to recover from taking some time off. But I think it came in at an opportune time for me. And sometimes things just have a way of working out now, do they? So today I want to talk about two parts of really... Hello there, how are you? I want to talk about two parts, and originally I wanted to talk about, budgeting after a big move and simple ways to enjoy your life and stay debt free. Say that a few times faster. And having said that, absolutely, you've decided to make that big move. And now what? You've got that home that you love. And so a lot of times when I'm helping downsizers, it's actually quite special because it's not just a home that they're picking because they've got a budget and they have to fit 5 kids and all of those things when you're starting out. It's a home that's truly for them right now because right now they're looking for a home that's going to work for them, not a home for them and their 5 kids, a home that just truly works for them, right? And so in saying that, so that's one part that I'm going to talk about. And the second part is really just a market update, just to tell you what I'm seeing out there. And this is my personal opinion. And if you have any questions, feel free to drop it in the comments below. Of course, if you also have some ideas of who you'd like to see on a show next time, and I'm happy to look at guests. Now, one thing I must say is that I want to thank people for reaching out. Because I've been getting so many requests for our U.S. friends. And at the current time, we're really not taking any U.S. guests. So just Canadian guests on the show or me. You get to see me. And I get to talk about big moves and what you need to prepare for and so on and so forth. But today we're going to be talking about, little budgeting tips of you've made this big move, and now what? Now what? Because let's be real, you've done all the hard stuff. You've packed, you've unpacked, you've purged, you've sold your home. You've made the move, and you have a new space. But it's also a good time to talk about real talk, about money. And how do you stay on top of things right now? So perhaps you've been living on a fixed income, right? You have a fixed income. Maybe you're not sure. Maybe you're not on a fixed income. Maybe you've just moved into a condo and you're adjusting to what those bills would look like. Perhaps the condo fees or any other bills. Maybe you want to travel more and eat out more and enjoy life without the guilt. So today I wanted to give you some calm, clear little tips on how you can stay ahead of the game and just breathe easy. I know it's a difficult time right now. I know a lot of people are probably going through a lot and they're probably afraid. And I'll touch on that piece when I talk about the market and the market update and what I'm seeing. Okay, so what do you need to focus on when you're talking about budgets? It's, the 3 zones, right? The must-haves, the nice-to-have, and what to watch. So when it comes down to the must-haves, it's the foundation. It's your mortgage, your rent, your property tax, your condo fees, utilities, groceries, all of those good things, phone, internet. And I like the way I put internet with, in the mix as a must-have. But I feel like we're in this day and age where you can have power. I mean, for some of you that had no power the last little while, like, it's one thing being in the dark, and being in the dark without internet is a whole different ballgame. I think you would go stir crazy in today's world. But having said that, and then any medicals that you might have, like medications, a whole 9 yards, that kind of stuff. So those are the things to keep your eye on for must-haves. But nice-to-haves is also really, really important. And those are the things that really kind of make you smile, not bring you happiness, because happiness is ingrown. Those are the things you just have to find within yourself. But really, it's like little things like, going out with your friends for dinner, or a good dinner out, a weekend trip, maybe Netflix, Shopify, manicures, pedicures, cafes, that kind of stuff. Having said that, these are things that are not must-haves. They're nice-to-haves. And I would say give yourself room. Life is too short. But you still have to balance your bank account. And you want to build on something and do it guilt-free. Listen, every day I help people with their choices in what they buy. How, give them a few tips on how they can get debt-free, how they can manage their budget a little better so they can do things. I mean, everyone's budget is a little different because you like different things. Maybe some people, need to have like drinks when they go out. I'm not a drinker. So for me, I find that drinking lifestyle is very expensive. And so you have to kind of budget for it. At least if I was a drinker, I'd have to budget for it because I think it's expensive. But on the what to watch out for things are the things that you really, really have to pay attention to, because these are the things that can get away from you in a hurry. And I've talked about them previously in a different context. For example, subscriptions, online shopping, monthly delivery boxes. A lot of people do these like makeup boxes, these real different boxes like Etsy, and I don't know, there's so many boxes that you can do. There's even like a snack box and a food box and all of these boxes, and honestly they can add up. And right now when the US dollar is a bit higher too, you end up paying a lot more. Now I'm not doing anything US purchased if I can help it, only essentials, daily stuff. But you don't have to cut everything. You just have to bring awareness to what you have. And sometimes, something as simple as $30 a month ends up to $360 a year. So multiply that by 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 items, and you'll know how much you're spending. So these are things that you really, really have to watch out for. And sometimes I think it's important that when we get to certain times where things are a little tighter or we start to watch a little bit more, we start to actually notice how much we're spending on these discretionary items that actually are just hidden. I did a little bit of a business review maybe a month ago, and you won't believe how many little things that I found that I truly didn't think I needed to have in place, that I had, like useless items that I was just paying money for. And then when you start to add them up, you realize how much it is every month. It's quite a big item. Now, how can you stay on track? Like different people have different way of doing things. Some people do the envelope trick where they just have, they use envelopes for everything that they need, like groceries, entertainment, and when the cash runs out, that's it. You're out of luck. So that's one way of doing it. Automatic transfers, also making sure you're automatically transferring money before you for into a rainy day fund. But really, most importantly, paying yourself first, right? So then the other thing I encourage people to do is when they're looking at a budget is truly spending at least a day, if not weekly or bi-weekly, at least once every month, so that you can just understand what you're spending money on and how much it's adding up to. I mean, when we keep tapping our cards, sometimes we don't realize what we've tapped on until the bill shows up and we're like, yikes. So those are things. The other thing is gifting. And I think sometimes people can get carried away on how many gifts. I know a lot of younger clients of mine, they'll pretty much curtail themselves to how many events they'll go on in a month if there's a gift involved. And they'll decline some others just because they want to make sure they're within their budget, which I think is very, very disciplined to do that. And, but most importantly, what budgeting isn't about restrictions, right? It's about really releasing the pressure. But when you know your numbers, you stop guessing, but you also stop stressing, right? And suddenly you've got like all this energy for things that matter to happen. So when you're being, what should I say, thoughtful, you suddenly realize the things you truly want to do, as opposed to just doing things to do them, right? Or just doing it because everybody else is doing it. So if it's a dance class or a book club or, I don't know, pickleball, Sunday brunch, a trip to Niagara, whatever it is. I say Niagara because apparently their sales are down and they're pretty slow right now. So that's what I would talk about when I'm talking about budgeting and just getting things wrapped up. And the reason why I attached it to a home is because it's a good time to really kind of also do a reset, because you've now got a new property, you've got maybe new expenses, maybe depending on what size property you have, you may have less expenses, you may have more expenses. If it's a newer property, you might be more efficient and therefore you might be spending less. And so it just kind of keeps you on top of what you're really spending and how to get ahead. Even though I think right now getting ahead, people will look at me going, what's wrong with you? Talking about getting ahead. But what's going on in the market? And crickets is what's happening. And I don't mean the sport by any means. The market is a bit quiet for April. However, people are still listing. So we're seeing properties come on the market, like lots of condos for sure, but we've got like a whole different issue with condos. And then there's the second part, which is, the freehold portion, which is detached homes and those sort of things. And those ones are still moving. If you had like smaller bungalows, I'm finding a lot of my clients are getting those smaller bungalows either sold or getting sold, picking up on smaller bungalows because they are looking for a smaller home as opposed to what they have currently. But properties are staying on the market a bit longer, and the bigger the price point, I think the longer it stays on the market. And even though the interest rates are dropping, we're also finding that even though interest rates are dropping, people are still sidelining it. And I would say that if you had a home, so a couple of things are happening, right? There's going to be, the pent-up demand hasn't gone away, right? And rates are going down. Condos, for most people, they've purchased the condo at such a high square footage amount that they're not cash flowing. So they want to get rid of their condos And that's why Toronto has this influx of condos that they're having a hard time getting rid of. Now, I would say this issue hasn't gone away where it's the pent-up demand hasn't gone away. And most of the building projects are put on hold. They're not building. In 1 to 2 years, the market will be back to where it was, without a doubt, because there will be no condos. Now, in the last little while, we've had this huge demand on immigration. So over COVID, I know a lot of people look at it going, oh my goodness, over COVID. But if you were an employer over COVID, especially in the healthcare department, right, you were looking at immigration as the absolute answer because they really needed people and they were having a hard time. So the whole point of having so many people come in to the country, especially as students, or come in and work part-time, or come in to Canada, makes two things, right? It really dramatically changes the age group. And as you know, it's the biggest time of the year where all of these baby boomers are, at least, I don't know if they're retiring just yet, but really they were looking to retire. Maybe some of them might have to work a few more years more with all of the markets tanking. But having said that, the last time we had like a young population is around the 1950s, right? And that's why right now we have all of those young people in the 50s have now become older people and are at the baby boomer stage. And we truly could do with a lot more younger crowd. So the immigration piece will settle down because they've started to curtail it. But really, our workforce will dramatically change. It will be a younger group, which is definitely helpful to a country, at least in my opinion. Who am I? I'm not like any fancy person. I'm just a basic person. But I'm thinking in my own common sense, a younger generation brings in maybe some challenges, but definitely a younger workforce as opposed to some countries, especially the U.S. I mean, they're if you look at their numbers, they've got so many people in there, but like some of them are not, they're older, right? And they have a older workforce too. So in saying that, a year from now or 2 years from now, with all of these building projects put on hold, especially with condos, we will see that influx in the market. Some of these immigrants that came in as students will now become permanent and will be able to purchase a property. They will soar our real estate. But the most important thing right now is really kind of where we are with developmental charges, right? Like all of these buildings, especially like when John Tory was in, he had changed how much taxes, how much development taxes Toronto charges. And so just in Toronto alone, like, I mean, the basic thing is, I think these fees, there's two things that can happen, right? So these fees, they get charged to the developer, who in turn sends it off to the end user, right? Like whoever's buying it. And a lot of times people are not worried. Like 160,000 or 120,000 in fees, really most people are not worried about that, because it's like they don't think of it, because they're like, just buy it and it's all in the price, and it's just when they have to pay for it is when it becomes an issue. But right now, when the developers are not building anymore, the city doesn't collect any. So zero building equals zero taxes. So they're going to find a different way to pick up on the taxes. So that's one solution eventually to deal with this affordability crisis, right? On the flip side, at some point, I don't think homes are going to get any cheaper. And right now, what I'm seeing, in my opinion, it's like the best time to buy, especially if you're just starting out, you want a condo. It's the best time to buy because people are willing to negotiate. There's so much options out there. People are willing to negotiate. I actually showed a client a condo in not long ago, and I left my card, and the agent called me back and said, hey, we're like, I have a very motivated client. And then I had this strange voicemail, and I didn't know who it was, and the person called me back yet again, and it was actually the owner, which I thought was really bizarre, that they saw my card there and they called me directly to pretty much try to convince me to bring an offer. So people are motivated to sell, and you just have to know your numbers, and you have to figure out, what things are selling for, where you can get a good deal. And I mean, I can spot a deal a mile away, but really it has to work for everyone, right? At the tail end of it, like, when did the person buy it, what they like, how motivated they are to sell. It makes a difference. And the ones that are in demand, there are some condos that are still selling no matter what. I sold a condo earlier this year, and it sold pretty quick, despite the demand and everything else being a little on the low side, and so many other properties being on the market. So that's kind of where we are right now. So what I would say to people is, really, buying is not for everyone right now. It never is. It has to fit your goals and what you're hoping to achieve. However, for some people, it might be the opportune time to buy because they're renting for a high price. Now, like I said in one other video that I did, if you're renting for a really low price, so let's say you're renting for $1,000. Let's just say you got lucky. You got rents at $1,000 or $1,500, let's say, and you've been renting for a while, and you rent a 1-bedroom somewhere, and that's a great rent, considering rents for a 1-bedroom in a condo is about $2,500. So yet for all, you'll pay $2,425 for someone else's mortgage, but you would probably get something to own. Now, I know there's other little tricky portions to it, because you have to have down payment, the whole 9 yards, closing cost, everything else. But for some of you who have been looking to buy, you've been sitting, you do have all of those in line, waiting, and you have all of those options available to you, you continue to pay someone else's mortgage. So now is a good time, I can tell you. Now is a good time, because if you are looking to negotiate and get a better deal, it's a good time. And listen, we can't always take a look at where we're headed, because it's almost impossible. But like, no different than when COVID first started and no one knew where this was going. Everyone got so freaked out, but yet for all, a few months later, prices and properties, or a year later, properties were all going crazy, and that's when all of this craziness started. But I'll say, like, a year or two from now, prices of properties will look a lot different. Demand hasn't gone away. We haven't deported that million newcomers, and more than likely 40 to 60% of those people that came in will be part of our economy, or our permanent residents, permanent residents in in a matter of time. So demand has not gone away. It's just sitting and waiting to reignite once the dust settles. And on another note, I would say is that, the one incentive that I think as a country, I think what we need to do is, if you're a young person out there and you're looking for a new a new career, I would say look at being a tradesperson. There's really not enough trades around. And once all this development starts again, all of these builders are going to be looking for, there are a lot of people looking to retire. So more than likely, builders are going to be looking for people. And if you're looking for a job or you're trying to figure out what should I do next, I know it's not all glamorous, but especially females in trades, it's such a great opportunity for them. There are so many different options for them to get into that I would suggest you look into. Now, if you are in Nova Scotia, the government of Nova Scotia, if you're under 30 and you go into a trade, for the first $50,000 income, they don't take any taxes from you. And that's in Nova Scotia, not here. But, just little things like that. The governments can put incentives in. But right now, I would say if you're looking for a new opportunity, then the trade is a good way to really kind of look into it a little further. And they pay quite well, too. Anyhow, having said that, I want to thank you for spending your evening with me. As I mentioned, my name is Jacqueline Watson, in case you don't know me, and I'm a realtor with Sutton Group in Toronto. And if you have any topics that you'd like me to unpack a bit further, then feel free to DM me, drop me a message. And until next time, we'll see you then. Thank you again for joining, and have a great evening. Bye now.